Adaptation: a movie, television, drama, or stage play that has been adapted from a written work, typically a novel. Let me propose you a question. What do you think happens when you let the creator adapt their own material? You'd at first assume that it'd be the perfect adaptation, but as you'll soon find out, that isn't always true. The time is June 2004. 20th Century Fox acquires the feature film rights to the hit book series Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Director Chris Columbus is hired to helm the project, and the filming began in April 2009 in Vancouver. February 12th, 2010, the film comes out to not the best of reception, but not the worst. It was good enough for Fox to greenlight a sequel to come out in 2013. Most die-hard fans hated the movie for its heavy inaccuracies and odd plot changes, but none hated it more than Rick himself. He's quoted calling it a mess, and my life's work going through a meat grinder. It was a pain and disappointment, and he wrote off Hollywood at that point. Then let's cut to March 20th, 2019. Disney's 3-year-long acquisition of 21st Century Fox is complete. In May 2020, Rick would announce that he would be acting as showrunner for the new Percy Jackson and the Olympians Disney Plus television show. Filming wouldn't begin until 2 years later in 2022 and finish in February 2023. It would then release on the streaming site on December 19th, 2023. Now, to answer my question, does Rick faithfully adapt the books he loves so much? Short answer is no. But I will give my own, mostly comprehensive breakdown of all 8 episodes, the pros and cons of each, and how Rick Riordan would fail his fans. Now, with the formalities out of the way, I shall get into my own personal history with the Percy Jackson franchise, as it is. My first introduction to it was technically the movie. As a kid, my mom tried to read me the books, but I would never stay still long enough to listen because I'd just get bored and run off and go play. So my first proper introduction was through the films that most fans don't like because of their inaccuracies. I don't hate them. I mean, at least the first one. I don't hate the first one. The second one's kind of just bleh. But, I like the first one. It's not accurate, but, it was a fun adventure movie. It lived up to, I guess, the spirit of the book. Like, the energy, the sass. So I wasn't really hating it as much as most fans. And then a few years back, a friend of my mom, she's like an aunt. Excuse that voice crack. She's like an aunt to me. And, she bought me the books because I told my mom, hey, I want to read this. This was after I found out there was graphic novels. I wanted to read those, but then she got me those books. Well, I ended up reading them just because I was bored one day, and I fell in love with them. I've read them all. The original, Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I haven't read the new one about the chalice. I haven't read any of the Heroes of Olympus. None of that. Just the original 5 books. That is it for me. So when I talk about the show, my knowledge on the franchise goes to those 5 books, the 2 movies, and now the television series. That's it. So, yeah. There's my history with the franchise. And, well, no, wait, I'm not finished. My mind is sidetracked a lot, and this is partially scripted, partially not, so I apologize if this seems all over the place. Anyways, I would then be extremely excited when I heard there was going to be a television show. Seeing Walker on the Adam Project movie, I was excited. He was perfect for Percy, I was so happy. Then the show came out, and at first I was, like, this has some changes, I can live with that. But as the show went on, I was just like, were we lied to by Rick? Because he was always just like, I would make it exactly what the fans want. And there's plenty of fans who are just like, oh, but trust Uncle Rick, and I'll get into that section later. That's just weird. But, or I'll make that a section later, I should say. But overall, I was disappointed with the show. And I hope season 2 will be better. I don't think it will, but I can just hope. And that concludes my history with the franchise. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Episode 1. I accidentally vaporize my pre-algebra teacher. 12-year-old Percy Jackson is on a field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where he is given a sword named Riptide in the form of a ballpoint pen by Mr. Brunner, his Latin teacher. Percy accidentally pushes his class bully, Nancy Bubblefit, into the water fountain, catching the attention of the algebra teacher, Mrs. Dodds, who reveals herself as a fury. Percy strikes Dodds with Riptide, and later finds that no one else seems to remember Dodds' existence. Percy returns home to his stepfather, Gabe Uglanio, and his mother, Sally Jackson. Percy and Sally head to their cabin in Montauk, New York, where Sally tells her son that Greek gods and monsters are real. Percy's class friend, Grover Underwood, inadvertently revealing himself as a satyr, arrives and tells Sally to move Percy to Camp Half-Blood. And the three are attacked by the Minotaur on their way, and the Minotaur seemingly kills Sally, which causes Percy to kill it in anger. He collapses upon reaching the camp, and is greeted by Chiron after he wakes. Okay, so that was what the Wikipedia, that's their synopsis of it. I already know you can't trust Wikipedia that much, but they are being awfully generous to the show in certain areas. Like when they say he accidentally pushes Nancy, he doesn't actually touch her, like, at all. So let me lay it out for you. Him and Grover are eating lunch, and she's making fun of him, and she throws cheese at Grover's head. And right before she runs into them, or right before she starts picking a fight with them, Percy's talking about how he'd like to throw in a trash can or something like that. Grover's just like, oh no, you can't do that. Well, anyways, when he gets mad, he just stands up and is just like, ugh! And she just, like, gets yanked back into the water. And when I first saw this scene, is like, someone recorded it on their phone at San Diego Comic-Con, I was just like, oh, it's just the water grabbing her from behind, and you just can't see it that well because it's on a low-resolution screen. Someone's just recording it. But then I saw it in the show, and nope. She just gets pushed back. She just gets pushed back like he's a Jedi or something, freaking bloodbender at that point. To my knowledge, bloodbending is never a thing Percy uses. So I don't even think regular waterbending is a thing Percy does, because that's, an Avatar thing. So Percy just magically force pushes Nancy into the fountain. Yeah, and the fight with Dodds, it's not a normal fight. They say he has a fight with her, but it's more so in the show just her walking towards him with this really cool looking transformation into a fury. I will give the show credit where credit is due. There are parts of it that look really good, like the CGI and stuff like that. It looks pretty good, in my opinion, in most areas. But Percy doesn't actually fight her. He just has a Riptide in his hand, and it just starts making this, like, it's like weird mechanical groaning noise. And as she's like 2 inches away from him, the sword just whoosh, it just magically opens and stabs her, and she just goes, ah! Just Thanos gets Thanos snapped, just which, that's accurate. When you kill him with the sword or anything made with that type of metal that the sword's made out of. I'm blanking on the name right now. It's like celestial steel or something, like, I don't remember. Anyways, when you kill them with the type of metal the sword's made out of, they, turn into dust and they return to the underworld. There's a slight thing that'll happen in a later episode that kind of messes up a plot point in a later book. But at this point, I don't think he really cares about following the story of the books and is more so just trying to rewrite them. Which was not what people wanted. Not what I wanted, at least. Anyways, let's get back to going over episode 1. In the book, his Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, who we all know is also Chiron, he does this thing where he sort of just, like, includes little Greek lessons into the Latin lessons to sort of, like, subtly teach Percy stuff about Greek mythology. Because in the book, Percy's mom didn't want him to know anything about it, neither did Grover, because the more he knew about it, the more likely he was to get attacked by monsters. But the only reason why Brunner was telling him about it was because it was about time for him to go to camp, Camp Half-Blood. But they sort of took that role away from him and gave it to Grover and Percy's mom, who both apparently in the past have taught Percy various things about Greek mythology, which is just like, there's one thing you'll notice, which I'm probably going to say that a lot, in the show, and it's that Percy, for some reason, knows a lot about Greek mythology when he's supposed to be like pretty much clueless on this, and Annabeth's supposed to be the one that's basically just like, well, don't you know that? Duh, of course they were like that. And Percy's just like, I didn't know that. Okay, I don't know nothing about this stuff, you know? He knows the basic, like very, very basic knowledge, but in this show, he sort of just like knows a lot about Greek mythology. Again, it's one of those things we'll get into in a later episode, but it's sort of just weird to me. I don't really get it, but I don't know. I guess they want to make Percy look smarter, which he was never stupid, so I don't really know what the point was of doing that. But let's just say Rick changes a lot of stuff. Now the Minotaur fight, that looks amazing. Okay, it's just, mwah, it is amazing. It looks so good. The CGI is good. It just looks amazing. It's so good. Okay, it's just, oh my god. I cannot express how good that fight is. And I may be over exaggerating it, but it's probably like the best fight in the show. In all fairness, it doesn't take a lot to beat the other fights in the show, because the other fights in the show really just aren't fights. They are just sequences that happen, or they're just like 2 seconds long. They're kind of disappointing. I do hope season 2 can be better when it comes to the fights. I hope season 2 can be better in a lot of ways. I don't have hope for season 2, but I can hope. Then after Percy fights it, yes, he does pass out on the front of the camp in the middle of the rain. He thinks his mom is dead. Well, actually, he doesn't think his mom is dead. In the book, he just assumes his mom is dead. But in the show, he sort of just never thinks his mom is dead, which is not one of those changes that I hate. I think him deciding to give the offering to his mother and talk to her instead of his dad, I can kind of get that. But also, there's other parts of it I really don't like them leaving details out. Like, they don't explain that Percy's mom works at a candy shop. They don't explain anything about the truck. Gabe is not, because, okay, this might be a bit of a trigger warning, so abuse, I guess. In the books, it is heavily, heavily implied that Gabe was a domestic abuser, okay? He drank, he did gambling, he was just a terrible person, and the reason why she married him was because apparently he stank to monsters, and it was a way to protect Percy. In the show, he's just a giant man baby. He doesn't drink, Percy and his mom don't even act like he beats it, nothing. He's just a giant annoying man baby. So his death later on in the show just doesn't even, it's not like, you go, Sally Jackson. It's more so just like, he really didn't have to die. It just makes you feel bad for him dying, when before you never felt bad. You're just like, yeah, he's a terrible person. And now, I guess they tried to make him sympathetic, or maybe they just tried to make him pathetic. I really don't know what they were going for. It's just bad. But yeah, that's just how it is, I guess. The show's gonna make a lot of weird changes. And this is just episode 1. Mind you, episode 1 and 2 came out as one of those two-parter things, because Disney Plus always does that. So I'll do that with this. Episode 2. I become Supreme Lord of the Bathroom. Percy wakes up in the camp's infirmary with Grover at his bedside. Well, actually, let me sidetrack before I finish reading the synopsis. The entire night, they show like bits and pieces of what Percy saw, going in and out of consciousness while he's in the infirmary. Annabeth just stares at him. She just sits there and stares at him. As we all know, she's the one who wakes Percy up, and she's just like, you drool a lot, and then she walks off. Nah, Grover's the one who wakes him up, and all we see of Annabeth is just Percy slowly falling in and out of consciousness in the middle of the night, and her just sitting there staring at him like she's Edward Cullen or something. It's just weird. Anyways, he meets Mr. D at the camp. Let me rephrase that. Edit that part out. He meets Mr. D, the camp director, and realizes that Mr. Bruner is a centaur named Chiron. Chiron instructs Percy to stay in the Hermes cabin until he is claimed by his godly parent. Percy meets several other campers, including Luke Castellan and Clarisse LaRue. I'm not calling her Clarisse. It's Clarisse, okay? And tries different activities to figure out his skills. Clarisse and her friends attempt to dunk Percy's head into a toilet, but Percy repels them with his water powers. That's one way to call it. Annabeth Chase recruits Percy onto her team for a game of Capture the Flag. Mind you, when I say she acts like Edward Cullen, I mean this. She's seriously, like, when his head is about to be dunked into the water, it is like the middle of the night, okay? It's not like the middle of the day. This is like, it is late at night. So when Percy's head is about to be dunked into water, that means the girl was just stalking him at that point. I don't think that's what they were going for, but it just looked like she's stalking him, and it is just creepy. Anyways, Annabeth, where was I? Yeah, for Capture the Flag. Luke tells Percy about how he and Talia, I'm calling her Talia, not Thalia. Okay, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I never thought she was called Thalia. That just sounds, that's a rant for another time, sorry. Had recruited Annabeth and set off for camp, but only he and Annabeth made it. Capture the Flag begins, and Percy repels an attack by Clarisse and her friends. While the blue team, consisting of the Athena and Hermes cabins, wins, Annabeth pushes Percy into the lake's water. Yeah, that's another thing. She somehow figures out he's the son of Poseidon. Like, okay, so what happens in the book is the way he gets Capture the Flag happens, and he gets pushed to the water, and his wounds from the fight heal. But he's not claimed at that point. He's not claimed until a giant dog, I forgot what they're called, one of the giant evil dogs from the underworld, chase Percy into the middle of the woods, and when he falls into like a little lake puddle thing in the middle of the woods, that's when he's claimed. But they completely cut that part out, which makes the reveal for Luke. That's a big spoiler there, but I already have a spoiler warning. So, anyways, that makes the big reveal for Luke kind of just like, because he doesn't have that many ways of you like putting it together yourself, you know. Anyways, where was I? Yes, Percy repels the attack from Clarisse and her friends. Yeah. I apologize if this is a bit all over the place. I am very new to this. Anyways, she pushes Percy into the lake's water, causing Percy's wounds to heal. Percy is then claimed by the sea god Poseidon and moves into the Poseidon cabin, which is completely empty. Soon afterward, Percy is told that Zeus has accused him of stealing his master bolt, and that a war will break out if it is not returned within a week. Percy is given a quest to find the bolt. And this episode, it wasn't terrible, but there's not a whole lot going on. Like, you don't see a lot of Percy and Luke bonding. And there was one change that they made that I really like. In the book, Percy sort of goes through this thing where he can't find a sword that fits him properly until he was about to go on the quest. Then Chiron gives him his sword back. But in the show, as soon as Percy and Chiron talk early in the morning, like after he wakes up, Chiron automatically gives him his sword back. And that's a change I liked because, you know, you don't got to have that weird little side plot that lasts for like 3 chapters and that's it. I don't even know if it's not really even a side plot. It's just like this weird little thing that pops up over and over again within like those couple chapters setting up Camp Half-Blood. And then, you know, they set off on their adventure. I kind of like that they just go ahead and give him Riptide. That's another thing. They never call the sword Riptide in the whole show. Never call it that. I don't understand because they have like a whole, like, a big part of their advertisement was taking this remix, or not remix, but like they made an epic version of this song called Riptide to, like, you know, put with the trailers and stuff, but yet they never took the time in the show to call the sword Riptide. So if you don't know anything about the books or say the previous movie and you go into this show, you're just going to be like, the trailers aren't going to make any sense. And there's a lot of references like that in the show where you only get them if you've read the books. Yet the show seems to want to appeal to a new audience and not just the book readers. And it's just this really weird in-between detail that I just don't understand. Anyways, there's the first 2 episodes that premiered on December 19th in 2023. Episode 3. We visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. This will be the episode where the larger cracks will start shining through abundantly. Now then, Percy receives a prophecy from the Oracle, which appears to confirm that the Master Bolt is with Hades in the underworld beneath Los Angeles. Chiron asks Percy to choose 2 other campers to accompany him on this quest, and Percy chooses Annabeth and Grover. Before leaving, Percy also receives a pair of winged shoes from Luke. Now, before I finish this, there's this weird thing that Grover does in the show where he doesn't cover up his legs or his horns for the rest of the show. So what they're basically saying is that in the first episode, the only reason why he covered them up is because Percy could see through the mist. But apparently nobody else, he doesn't even worry about that because the mist just covers him up. And I feel like that the original way they did it in the book also would have saved like a lot of money, but nah. And I was just confused about this. But also Percy makes this joke about Talia being turned into a tree, like as they're about to leave the camp. Annabeth's just like, this is where I saw a brave friend of mine fall. She died a warrior's death, or she met a warrior's fate, or something like that. And Percy goes, she met a pine cone's fate, which hilarious joke, but that was so messed up. Now then, back to the synopsis. The 3 begin a cross-country bus trip and are attacked by Alecto. That's the name of Mrs. Dodds when she's in her, what are they called? When she's a giant bird lady. Having previously reformed. Tisiphone? I don't know what that, I don't know, I assume that's the other. It's not Harpy. What did I call it again? Give me a minute. Fury. That's what they're called. Fury. She's the other Fury, apparently. In New Jersey. They manage to escape and find the home of Medusa. This is the weird part. In the book, there's this big lead up where, yeah, they go through the fight with them, but they're in the middle of the woods, it's real late, and they wind up on the Gnome Emporium really, really late at night. They're tired, they're hungry, and, Percy and Annabeth, this is another side rant, whatever. Percy and Annabeth's dyslexia is not shown. I mean, Percy's is shown in the first episode when he looks at the paper, but otherwise, Percy and Annabeth are not shown to have dyslexia at all through the whole show. Annabeth is never shown to have it, which is weird because even she struggled with it in the first book, and Grover had to read everything for them because it was hard for them, but they got rid of that. I don't know why, but they did. Anyways, she tries to convince Percy that she is not a monster, but rather a victim of the whims of the god. That is a big change. This is like one of the largest leaps they made from the source material. Is that instead of having it be this build-up to where like Grover finds his uncle who's been turned into stone, and then there's like this huge like, oh crap, that's Medusa. No, they have her immediately be like, yo kids, come inside, I'm Medusa, I'm not evil, I was just turned this way, I'm hip with the kids, you know? And I'll continue. Anyways, the trio work together to decapitate Medusa. Then Percy uses Medusa's head to petrify Alecto. That's another thing that I think that'll cause trouble later on, because in the 5th book, again, huge spoilers for pretty much everything, Alecto shows up in the underworld when what's his name? Nico takes Percy to the underworld. She shows up there. She also shows up at the end of the book, in the first book. She's in the underworld, but here they just like permanently kill her off in the 3rd episode when she's supposed to be like a semi-reoccurring character, and it was sort of just this weird thing where I'm just like, that's no, I didn't like that. But anyways, yeah. After disagreements with Annabeth and Grover, Percy reveals to them that the prophecy said that he would be betrayed by a friend, And the three tongue-tied. The three then clarify themselves, and Percy decides to send Medusa's head to Olympus. Keep this in mind, because this will get them in big trouble for some reason, and it'll cause a really stupid thing to happen in the next episode. Mind you, Percy did this, not Annabeth. Anyways, that was episode 3. It was the first episode that kind of had me like, oh, this is not going to be a good show, is it? Because when I watched the first 2 episodes, I was just like, you know what, this show has hope, you know? I was hopeful for this show. Now I am not hopeful at all. Like, at that point, I was not hopeful. As soon as I saw the thing with Medusa, I was just like, this show is going to be terrible, isn't it? Oh, you don't know anything until you hear me talk about episode 4. Oh, episode 4 is so bad. Well, let me go ahead and talk about it. Episode 4, I plunged to my death. Episode 4, the Percy Jackson and the Olympians. How I hate thee. Shall I get into it? Yes, I shall. Percy, Annabeth, and Grover continue west on a train. The trio then discover that their cabin was ransacked by a woman who reveals herself as Echidna and is training a young chimera that poisons Percy. After the train arrives in St. Louis, the trio seek refuge inside the Gateway Arch, which, in the book, when they go to the Arch, they only go there because Annabeth is like a huge, like, architecture nerd. You know, she just goes there. There's a lot of character building moments for Annabeth that they just sucked out of the first season, so she's sort of just this edgy, brooding character who's just like, I hate humans, and then halfway through, after this episode, she's just be like, I hate the gods, and then by the end of the season, she's just gonna be like, my moral views are grey, I don't know who to trust anymore, but I trust you, Percy, because we're going to be in love in the future. You know? Anyways, they go there because in the show, it was like a temple to her mother. But yeah, I'll get to that after finishing. Decides to bring him on top of the arch in order to seek help from Athena. Annabeth then learns that Athena was embarrassed after Medusa's head arrived on Olympus and has allowed Echidna and Chimera to enter the arch. Percy decides to stay behind and allow Grover and Annabeth to escape. After an unsuccessful battle with the Chimera, Percy falls from the arch and is pulled into the Mississippi River. There he meets a Nereid? A water fairy. That's just how I'm going to say it. Who helps him realize that he can breathe underwater. So, this episode, this was the one that really had me going, this is just going to be a bad show. And it just gets worse and worse from here, unfortunately. It just gets, it gets so much worse. And I am baffled at how things could possibly get worse, but they do. You didn't think they could, but they did. And I'll get to that after I'm done ranting about why episode 4 gets on my nerves. Because there's already a thing about the arch and them basically taking every moment that builds Annabeth's character and just snatching it away. But also, she was embarrassed, and Annabeth's name is not put on there. Annabeth tries to stop him. There's no reason she shouldn't have protected at least Annabeth. Sure, let him get Percy, but why Annabeth? And Annabeth, for the first 3 episodes, well, she's properly introduced in the second episode, has this sort of just like, no, I don't really like humans because my parents, my dad and stepmom kind of just hated me, you know? My stepmother hated me, so I hate humans, and my mother was the only person who actually liked me, so yeah. And then this episode's supposed to, I guess, try and give her depth about making her question her beliefs and stuff like that, and it's just like, yeah, that happens in the book, but the reason why she questions her opinions on mortals is because of Percy and his mother, and seeing that, hey, not everyone's bad, I just maybe didn't think straight. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents, but it doesn't mean everybody's bad. You know, Percy is what makes her change her mind, not her mother forsaking her, because that's not something I see were doing to Annabeth, not the book version of Athena. I can't speak for the proper Greek mythology Athena. I'm purely speaking from the Percy Jackson and the Olympians book Athena. I don't ever see her doing that to Annabeth, because that would be absolutely terrible. But that happens. I don't know why, but it does. So yeah. Also, Lin-Manuel Miranda shows up. Yeah. Hamilton is Hermes. I can fully believe in this universe that Hermes just is Hamilton. Not like the historical figure, but like in the Percy Jackson show universe, Hermes is the one who pretends to be the Noel Miranda and just is that because he saw it happen. I can just see that because it was funny. He shows up in the show. He's not really in this episode for that long. It was kind of just like, I guess that kind of makes sense. He doesn't really look related to the person who plays Luke, but, you know, it's kind of just like, you know, it is what it is. It's not terrible. It's not bad. I'll get into more of my feelings of him as, I was about to say Apollo, like a dummy. More of my feelings about him as Hermes later on in a different episode synopsis review thingy. But yeah, that was episode 4. Did I hate it? Yes, I loathed it. And unfortunately, it just goes further downhill from here. Okay, so since we're at the halfway mark of the show, since the first season only has 8 episodes, I'm just gonna give my, like, full feelings about certain things I said I'd touch on later. Okay, so I think a lot of the props and the CGI look good. As I said earlier, I think there are certain things that look a little bit off. Like, Riptide itself looks a little small in my opinion. The one in the show looked big, but, you know, it may have not been historically accurate to Greek. But the one Percy uses in the show, it doesn't really look right for the type of sword fighting he's doing. I talked to somebody in the past about, like, historical swords and stuff like that, and they said that the version of Riptide that's in the show it's one of those swords that you'd see people using on a chariot, one of those one-handed swords. But a lot of Percy's fights in the show, he holds the sword with 2 hands, but since it's a one-handed sword, he has to just hold this itty-bitty little sword with both his hands, so one of his hands is just on top of the other. And it just looks goofy whenever he wants to fight with it. The promo art with Walker is an amazing Percy. I think everyone was casted perfectly. It's just the show itself that's just like, ugh. Now, I will get into casting stuff in a minute, but I think most of the promo art where he has the sword, not promo art, but like posters and stuff, it can look goofy. There's just one where he's kneeling, and I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like he's having to like bend his back so much to make the sword touch the ground, and it just looks uncomfortable. And there'll be a sword fight later on in like episode 7 or 8. That's just gonna look even goofier because it's just this itty bitty little sword, not meant for like one-on-one dueling. It's more so it is meant for one-on-one dueling, but more so like you're both in a chariot, you both only have one hand, you know. It's not like one person has a ginormous sword and you got this itty bitty little sword, you know. No, it's not like that. I guess it could transition well to a Lego, but I doubt they'd ever make Lego sets of it. Then again, you never know. I mean, they have a Lego Gru. Anyways, yeah. And with the acting, I suppose I have to get into the controversy of them making Annabeth black. I didn't have any problem with it. Yes, in the book, she's blonde hair, blue eyes, white girl. Who's supposed to be like how Annabeth's just like, I'm tired of people thinking blondes are stupid. I'm not stupid just because I'm blonde, you know? But in the show, I don't have any problem with her being black. I think Leia is a great actress. I know that was a huge drama, huge controversy. Is it accurate to the book? No. But there are some things from the book I don't mind them changing. Like with Grover. I have never imagined Grover as white. But apparently in the books, he's supposed to be a white dude with red hair. I have nothing against redheads. Nothing against white people. I am white. I make Casper look tan, for God's sake. But book Grover, apparently, from the pictures they show. There's one that looks really pretty, but the original pictures, so scary, so terrifying, so ugly. It'll make you just want to bleach your eyeballs. So, like, yeah, I did not like the casting choice. No, I like the casting choice. That's what I meant to say. I didn't like the way he looked in the books. It looked weird. I never imagined Grover as white. Never. Black, Indian, Asian, anything, any kind of person of color is how I imagined him. Never that. Just. And, what else shall I talk about in this little intermission area? Anything else? Oh yeah, they also mentioned mytho magic cards earlier in the show, like in episode 1. That's like how Grover shows Percy a picture of the Minotaur that wears underwear and stuff like that. And I got that surprisingly accurate, but not the mytho magic cards, but the Minotaur and underwear. The mytho magic cards itself, I don't mind them bringing them into the show earlier, but maybe a bit more as a background thing, because them showing it as something Grover uses to teach Percy about that sort of just. It seemed odd to me, at least. Really odd. But I mean, that's about it. No, that's not it. Okay, there's also this other thing Rick does in the show, where he'll show things that aren't supposed to show up yet. It's sort of like, oh yeah, you see this thing from the books? See this little Easter egg? Ooh, for you book readers. Like in the very first episode, during the flashback, where Percy's just like, my life's been crap, I saw things, they thought I was crazy. Percy sees Blackjack, his Pegasus, on top of a roof. Which, I mean, while a neat detail, a neat Easter egg, that doesn't really make sense, because Percy doesn't really save Blackjack until the second book. And then after that, Blackjack's sort of just like, oh, I love you, you saved me, you know? Not that kind of I love you, but like a pet that he can actually hear talk. So, yeah, it's one of those weird things, and that happens a lot in the show, and it's just kind of weird to me. Also, Percy's powers are sort of, I mean, I haven't really discussed this yet, because it mainly happens in the later episodes, but they sort of develop faster than they did in the books. In the first book, he can breathe underwater, will himself to not be wet, as they put it. Basically, he can keep himself dry while he's in water, but I don't think they really touch on that. Probably because it'd be really hard to do in live action, but yeah. And also, he can heal himself with water. But that's about it. In the show, he will do the full-on, you know, my daddy's Poseidon, yeah, and, you know, send like gusts of water at people. I don't know why it sounded country when I said that, but yeehaw, you know. I'm Percy Jackson, yeehaw. I don't know why I'm doing that. Anyways, yeah, and this may sound like me being nitpicky. I'm not trying to be, but this is just my opinion on the show. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you think I'm being nitpicky, that's fine. But I don't think it's a good adaptation at all. And that's also another thing to bring up. The fans of the show. There are fans of the books who do not like the show, do not think it's right, do not think it's accurate. They just don't like it. For various reasons. Some valid, some are just stupid reasons. You know, I myself am one of those people who are just like, I don't like the show because it's not accurate and we were lied to for years by Rick Riordan. I think it's crazy old coot. But that's just me. I mean, I still like the books, but I think he like struck gold once and then kind of just went downhill from there. I haven't read the other books, but as far as I can tell, I'm scared too. But yeah, people for a good while, anytime a new episode would come out and it'd make some ginormous drastic change, would be like, come on guys, come on, you gotta trust Uncle Rick. You gotta trust Uncle Rick. Trust Rick, he knows what he's doing. And I'm sort of just sitting there looking at all these TikToks like, does he though? Because I don't think he does, and I do not trust him. And evidently I was to be right. Those same people were still like, oh my god, it's so good. And I'm just like, I don't know what you find good about this show. I think you just gaslighting yourself because Rick wrote it. Okay, that's just me. But yeah. Anyways, that's about all I can think of at the moment for like side thought stuff. There might be more once I've finished talking about episodes 5 through 8. But until then, that's about as much side thoughts of it as I have. So, intermission over. Episode 5. A God buys us cheeseburgers. Annabeth spots Atropos cutting a thread, signifying an impending death, before she and Grover can reunite with Percy. Percy tells them they need to meet with Poseidon in Santa Monica, before learning that the three of them have become wanted criminals due to the events in the train at the Arch. The trio encounter Ares, who offers to assist them if Percy and Annabeth recover his shield from Waterland. The two find the shield inside the Tunnel of Love, but Percy has become trapped on Hephaestus' golden throne for the shield to release. This is the dumbest change I've heard so far. So in the book, they get on the thing, the shield is stuck in the boat, so they jump in, and then as they go through the Tunnel of Love, a bunch of mechanical spiders show up. This is when you find out Annabeth's fear of spiders, and she has arachnophobia, and it's like, it shows a channel all the way up to Olympus, In the show, Percy and Annabeth just hop into the boat willingly. There's no shield in it. And for some reason, Hephaestus has written his sob story on a projection show across this quote-unquote Tunnel of Love, where it's just like, oh, I was born with a crooked back. I was a crooked man with a crooked back and a crooked house. My wife, who is so beautiful, who is betrothed to me, cheats on me with this dumb jock, and I'm mad, It's just a big old sob story. And then to get the shield, Percy has to get in there. He turns into gold, and Annabeth, her trusting of gods, just like, oh, you guys are so mean. This boy that I like has to sacrifice himself because you're just salty. Your wife cheats on you. And he's just like, and then you have what's his name? I forgot his name. The dude who Hephaestus shows up just out of the blue, like nowhere, when he's only supposed to show up in like the 3rd book. He just shows up out of nowhere, and it's just like, yo, dude, I'm sorry y'all got stuck in this. I promise not all gods are bad. And then Annabeth's faith in the gods is restored, but halfway. I don't know. There's this weird thing where, like, after episode 4, Percy's just like, come on, guys, we gotta trust the gods. He acts like this youth pastor who's just like, come on, guys, let's just trust Jesus, And then, but, with Poseidon. And then after that, Annabeth is just acting like her whole worldview is shocked, and she's just like, I cannot trust the gods, for they have been my money, but have betrayed me. I'm so depressed and moody, but this time it's for a different reason. And she's got like one facial expression throughout the whole show. It's sad because the actors act more like Annabeth and Percy in real life than they're able to in the show. Because Annabeth she's gone to the acting school of Edward Cullen. Because I know the girl can act, but whoever directed them just did terribly. She's just like, brooding. Oh my god. And it's just goofy to me. Anyways, Annabeth convinces Hephaestus to free Percy. Ares gives the trio a backpack of supplies and brings them to a zoo delivery truck bound for Las Vegas, where they can get assistance from Hermes at the Lotus Casino. Grover then tells Percy and Annabeth that he knows who stole the Master Bolt from his conversation with Ares. This one was a crazy one. So apparently Grover was able to trick Ares into telling him something. Grover from the book would have been a nervous wreck, never been able to do this. I didn't mind the change that much, but maybe make Grover's confidence arc gradually show up, not be so abrupt, maybe. And they never had to go to the Lotus Casino, which is funny because Rick hates hates the book, or he don't hate the book. He hates the movie because in the movie they have to go to certain spots that they go into in the book, but for the pearls they have to use to get out from the underworld. In the book, they don't have to go to any of these spots. It sort of just accidentally happens. In the show, they try to make it not so happenstance, like having to talk to Hermes at the Lotus Casino. That never happened. They just run into the Lotus Casino because they're tired. They show up in Las Vegas because of the thing. Also, as we get into episode 6, it's called We Take a Zebra to Vegas. Okay, a zebra is never shown. Percy never learns his way, never learns how to talk to horses. He never figures this out in the show. None of that. A zebra never even shows up. So they just took the name from the book and just never actually went with it for some reason. And they talk to Luke in the thing with one of the golden dronchmas, which you throw it in the water and you're just like, hey, rainbow spirit, let me talk to whoever. I don't remember exactly how it goes. In the show, they make it to where you can just do it with any kind of reflection of light, but in the book, it's with water. It's this really weird thing. Anyways, let's get to the description. After Percy eavesdrops on a dream where a mysterious voice is presenting his headmaster from Yancey Academy, talks to the lightning thief. Okay, this Wikipedia's just got bad grammar. It's not just me stuttering. The trio arrive in Las Vegas to inform Luke through an iris message that Clarisse might be the thief. Yeah, they somehow land on the thought that they think Clarisse LaRue, I think that's her name, might be the lightning thief for some reason. The Lotus Casino, Grover finds a family friend who says that he found Pan. Pan is the nature god, the one that Grover really wants to find, and it's this thing that's set up throughout the books. In the show, it's kind of just abruptly thrown in. Percy and Annabeth find Hermes. Oh yeah, also, when they get to the casino, as soon as they enter the doors, they just automatically know that they could be tricked in there. There's no Percy figuring out by seeing an old person. None of this stuff. Percy and Annabeth don't even get tricked. They don't even get to see their heart's desire. None of this stuff. They just get in and they're just automatically like, yeah, we know this place is booby-trapped, so let's not get stuck here because we know everything. It's just so weird. But anyways, who refuses to help them. They then realize they have unknowingly been inside the casino for days due to the air of the casino containing lotus fruit. After reuniting with Grover, they find Hermes' car, which has directions to the underworld provided by Hermes, and are brought to Santa Monica Beach by the car. In the water, Percy learns from the narrated water fairy that the quest deadline has passed and his father left to prepare for war. Percy vows to continue his quest and is provided 4 pearls to escape the underworld. This episode was just mind-boggling. So, okay, they've already eliminated all of Zeus's bite, because in the book, the deadline is... Yeah, I realize I keep saying in the book a lot, but just bear with me. In the book, the deadline is never met. Percy gets it done before the deadline, but in the show, the deadline is passed in the Lotus Casino, and it's just stupid to me. Because it's just how are we supposed to know Zeus means business if he's still... he doesn't automatically start war on, the deadline. No, they prepare for war, which leaves Percy, an extra day or two to go find his mom and talk to Hades and then go all the way back to New York. It's just so dumb. And also the pearls. They gave him 4 pearls to save his mom. It really doesn't add nothing, because one person will lose theirs in the underworld, and then they'll just have extras, and it's just stupid. There's no point in adding a third one. There's no point in adding a fourth one. You could have just kept it at 3, made Percy have to do the sacrifice. It's simple as that. Or make Percy's mom make him leave, you know? It's simple as that. No, they have this really weird contrived thing. I can't with this show sometimes. It's just, it does so many dumb things. And also, it's just got bad writing. Like, even if I wasn't a Percy Jackson fan, I'd be mad at the show for his writing, because Percy somehow already knows everything, already knows all the conflicts, understands everything, not even having to be explained. Which makes me feel bad for newcomers who never even picked the book, because then they're probably just like, well, how does he know everything and we don't? Like, what's going on? Are we just expected to know this stuff? And that's another weird thing about this show, is that it tries to change things for newcomers, but then also there's a lot of things that will only make sense if you've read the book. There's a lot of plot points that won't make sense unless you've read the book, because they leave a lot of context out, because I thought there'd be hour-long episodes for each episode. No, like, the first episode's an hour long, and then every other episode's like 30 minutes. 30 minutes they mostly spend just explaining stuff. It's always just Annabeth going, plot, 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 plot. And then Grover going, plot, 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 plot. And then Percy going, oh, I get it. Plot, 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 plot. And then they just explain everything to the audience. They never show nothing. It gets boring. There's fight scenes. They're also boring, like with the Chimera. Percy doesn't even really fight. He sort of just stands there while sick and falls through the hole in the arch. I realize this was a couple episodes back, but still. Hermes was never in the Lotus Casino. At some point, they try making a reference to Nico and his sister by having some kid yell his sister's name at some point in the casino. It's just, it's stupid. I can't. This show is just a badly written show. I think it's kind of like the same thing when J.K. Rowling tried to write a play for Harry Potter. It just came out as a very bad play. Don't let Rick write TV shows. Do not let him write TV shows. Because apparently, in the next season, there's going to be a new character that was never a part of the books, being in season 2. It's going to be like that Teen Titan. It's going to be like when they added Bumblebee to Teen Titans Go. If you can just put a clip of that in there so everyone knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, there's episodes 5 and 6. There's only 2 episodes left. And I know most of this has just been probably incoherent rambling, but I just can't with the show. It hurts my brain. I don't know how you screwed up this bad, and he did. But I can probably get more into that later on. Anyways, there was episodes 5 and 6. Nearing the end game we are. Third time trying to record this outro. Anyways, life has gotten crazy. I haven't had time to finish this video. I haven't really had much motivation to finish this video, and I've just been really hard with life. Really hard working. You know, there's school, trying to find a job. I'm gonna finish this. So don't worry, there will be a part 2 that finishes my opinion on the series. Still have those recordings for episodes 7 and 8, I think. It's been a while since I recorded this, so like, it's been forever since I've touched this project. So, anyways, this is going to have to be a part 1. It's already nearing an hour long, so yeah, it's pretty long. I stretched that footage of the Kingdom Hearts game as thin as I could. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, share, do all the YouTube stuff. You know, I don't know how any of this works. I just did this for fun because I didn't like the show. I'm sure if you've watched the video this far, you can tell that I don't like the show. But, you know, anyways, hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna make it part 2. It should look better than this one. Hope you have a great day. Love you all. And Bye-bye for now.
Girl, that's a booty hole.
Not a hole, Keisha. A valve.